Hello, and welcome to Under 1000. My name's Thomas Flower, and each episode I'll read you a new piece of flash fiction. All of the stories are 1,000 words or less. Today, I'll be reading Dreams of Another Place. It had only started a few weeks ago. The messages had been coming to him, pouring in at night as though somewhere a gate had opened and unleashed the heavens onto his mind. The angels were rushing to send him their stories, advice, messages, wishes. It had all begun with just one. A dream, crowded with clear but mysterious symbolism, had haunted him night after night, acting as a message from a power he could not interpret. Now, though, he knew it had been the angels, reaching out to contact him in their own enigmatic way. As he'd remained open to their advances, more had joined in, until his nights were crowded with bizarre, one-sided conversations with beings from the great beyond. He was still no closer to understanding what the angels were saying, of course. The dreams they sent were always layered thickly with symbolic meaning that was so obtuse as to be practically meaningless. Of course, there was some sense to it, no doubt, but cracking that code was a feat that would take a lifetime's work. He couldn't tell if the angels were also aware of this, however, as their desire to chat endlessly on with him suggested that they thought that he could understand what was being said. As part of his need to understand, he had started keeping a notebook by the bed, frantically scribbling everything down when he woke in the morning, in order to try to find the motifs and patterns that might help him crack the code. So far his information was sparse, though he'd found several repeating images, a clamshell, purple chairs, two trees growing away from each other. He'd yet to pin down a clear and solid meaning for any of it. Still, he thought, in his most despairing of moments, perhaps comprehension of this strange, elusive language is beyond the mortal realm. It did seem unlikely that someone like him would be able to understand the anointed in heaven. He'd tried recruiting others to help him with this cause. Friends, family, and even some neighbours had all been asked. He hoped that if he gathered together a small team, then between them they might be able to crack the code. Instead, they turned him down, either looking concerned or outright laughing in his face. The prospect of communicating with angels was something too grand for them to understand or believe in, he was sure. It seemed that this was a path he was destined to travel alone. Alone, indeed, had become the operative word. Recently, as he had more fervently requested help from those around him to uncode the dreams burning their way through his brain, they in turn had peeled off, vanishing from his life one by one. Excuses were made, as everyone suddenly and simultaneously became too busy to see him. It seemed that the more passionately he stated why he needed them, the more they fell away from him. Now it was only him and the angels. His life had shrunk to their relationship together. Communication with these beings was all that was left to him now, making him even more determined to see the project through. Of course, there was another avenue he hadn't yet explored, contacting the church about these divine revelations. He was sure that, given the right persuasion, they might grant him the resources to make sense of the images and symbols swimming nightly in his brain. Though others may mistrust and fear what he had said, surely the church would be only too ready to welcome him, and provide the work and expertise needed to properly engage in these angelic conversations. To that end, he had recorded a short video explaining how all this had begun, and revealing the little he had already learned about the dreams which had been sent to him from on high. He intended to send it to all the largest organizational branches of the major world religions, in order to see which believers would hold enough faith to follow him on this. Briefly editing the clip, he prepared a short email to copy and paste, so that he might speed up the process of contacting several hundred addresses. He was sure that this time it would work. The faithless were the wrong place to start anyway. Surely those who knew God already, who spoke to him on a daily basis, would be able to see this gift for what it really was, and therefore take his request for help far more seriously. With a frantic passion, he uploaded and sent away his plea, hoping that his prayers might finally be answered. In bed that night, he had the clearest and most explicitly direct dream he had ever received. The word "Yes" in bright red text above a majestic gold background hovered in front of him for several hours. Clearly there could be no mistake. The angels were here with him. They knew he was doing the right thing, and they would not lead him astray. Something big was coming. He could feel it now. He would be a vessel to a changed world, recreated by their desires. Perhaps that had always been the point of all this. In the morning, he awoke to find a slow trickle of replies had found their way to him. Confident that this would be the first step in heralding the new world, he opened one to read the response. The angels were on his side. He knew that now. Soon, everything would be done as it was meant to be. Thank you for listening to Under 1000. I'm your host, Thomas Flower. To follow the show online, look for Under 1000 Pod on Twitter or Facebook. If you'd like to support the show on Patreon, go to patreon.com/under1000pod, where you can sign up to read each month's stories in advance, as well as to have a thank you be read during these credits. The theme music is an instrumental version of In Between Days by Nick Tate and the Sharks. To hear the full song and more from the same EP, go to Nick Tate, NICTATE, and thesharks.bandcamp.com, or search for them on your favourite streaming platform. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and that you'll join me again next time for some more super short fiction.